So, for the past few episodes, we have been talking so much about the advice that moms receive during and to their journeys to motherhood. And, we've covered just not even scratch the surface, really. We've talked about things like just relax when you're trying to conceive and enjoy every moment when you have a little one. And as you and I both know, Alex, like this goes on and on. I am so excited to have you on the show today. You have been through such a journey. And so we're going to hear a little bit more about that, learn a little more about you for anyone here who doesn't already know you. But first of all, I would really just love to hear from you. You have been through so much over the past decade of your life. Is there a piece of advice that you have received that stands out to you as like the most regular, the most hurtful, the hardest to contend with? I want to hear your thoughts on that because I know you've gotten so many different things.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I'm so excited to be here with you too. So I just want to say thank you for having me on here.
Oh my God, I'm excited.
I've been looking forward to it. Well, first of all, I think just because I've been through, I won't tell my whole story because it could take forever, but I've been through IVF and canceled cycles, failed transfers, recurrent miscarriage, surrogacy, spontaneous pregnancy, pregnancy after loss.
All
And
of it,
so,
all of the gamut,
yeah.
including spontaneous, healthy pregnancy after all of this,
Right.
including after surrogacy. So,
Right.
like,
And then all the blood tests and all of the
yes.
monitoring to make sure I stayed pregnant after because of recurrent loss.
Yes.
So I have like a very unique path to parenthood. But with that, I absolutely agree that there are always people that want to give you advice. And
Yes.
no matter how much you tell people what you need to hear or what you want, I feel like there are just some people that can't listen or can't hear you. And so for me, I think the most frustrating thing is not even a specific piece of advice that people give, but it's more when you tell them what you need in a moment and they ignore you. Like that's to me one of the most frustrating things because like if I say I just want to be left alone and then people think that they know what I need better than what I am telling them and then they don't leave me alone, it's just so frustrating because
Yes.
like I'm literally giving you exactly what I need and you're still ignoring me.
Yes. Yes. And so for anyone who's listening, let's say they're supporting someone who says, hey, I'm in a hard spot and I just need to be left alone. What does that mean for you? Does that mean don't even send me a text message? Or does that mean like don't knock on my door and expect me to be excited that you took the time to come visit me?
So I think part of the big difficulty also with that though is that that's a big thing. Like you need to figure out what works for you and how you want to be
Yes.
supported because every single person is so individual with how they want to be supported. And I do totally understand that it's really difficult to support people through these situations because they haven't experienced it themselves. However, what I've found is that the people that I've like stayed close with throughout it and the like closest friends that I have are people that understood, first of all, that me not being able to show up for them in certain situations is not about them. It's just that I can't even be there for myself. And so
Yes.
that this is just a season of life. There will be other seasons where I can be there for them, but that was not that moment. And also just text me. Like one of the things that I liked the most, and I think that this is pretty, most people in the infertility community will say this, that just send a text. And the wording that I always suggest to people is something like, hey, I'm just checking in. I just want to say I love you. I'm thinking about you. Do not feel obligated to respond to this.
Yes.
Like, I'm here no matter what. And that's it.
I knew that is what you were
Yeah.
going to say because I think this is what I tell people. I don't care what someone is going through. If they are struggling, if it is infertility, if it's pregnancy loss, if it's, postpartum, it doesn't matter what the struggle is. I think there's so much power in the no reply needed. Just wanted to let you know whatever you want to say.
Because I think that people can feel guilty because they know that people are coming from a good place and want to help them. And so then it almost becomes like the person that's hurting feels like it's their job to make sure that nobody else feels bad about it. Like one of the hardest things about going through, like, for example, a miscarriage was telling people bad news. I hated having to, because a lot of times they knew I was pregnant. So, or knew I was trying to get pregnant. And so to have to make the calls of either it didn't work or it didn't work anymore or we just lost the baby, like, you don't want to have to make those calls. I mean, it actually got to the point for me where I would call, like, my parents and be like, you tell the rest of the family. I don't really care if other people know, but I don't want to tell them myself.
This episode is sponsored exclusively by G8 by SNP Therapeutics, providing genetics-powered nutrition tailored for every stage of the fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum journeys. With G8, it's not just about a single product or service. It's about a journey toward optimal maternal and fetal health. From their insightful G8 test to their meticulously formulated prenatal vitamin, every step is a leap forward in maternal care. My own journey with G8 has been transformative, bringing a sense of control and peace in an often unpredictable time. They are changing the game in prenatal nutrition, and I'm proud to be part of the movement to provide personalized healthcare for every mother out there. Learn more at undefiningmotherhood.com/G8 and use code undefining10 for 10% off. This reminds me of something, we see this so often because you and I both, we talk about loss a lot on Instagram and have big communities there, and then follow other people who do the same. And I'm thinking of a couple of people specifically recently who are kind of larger influencers, for lack of a better word, but really people who are there to be support systems for others who have been going through their own fertility struggles, their own loss struggles, or their own pregnancy and postpartum struggles. And when something traumatic happens to them, I was, in a way, lucky in that I didn't find this world of social media until after I had gone through everything. So a lot of these people we're watching go through it live, we feel like we're going through it with them. I mean, I know I'm checking Instagram for beta results 20 times a day. And then when they come on with horrible, traumatic news, and you and I know so well personally how devastated and heartbroken they are, we hear them saying things like, I'm sorry I haven't been keeping you updated, or I'm sorry I haven't responded to all of your DMs. And I think that speaks so much to it. The person who is grieving should not have to shoulder the burden of responding to anyone. And I love this idea of just giving that permission. I don't need a response. I just want you to know I'm here.
And I think with that, that's a really good point with social media, because so many people are sharing. You never have to share ever if you don't want to from the beginning.
Absolutely not.
And a big thing for me that I think is something that I would tell people close to me as well is that I can want to share every single aspect of what's going on with me today. And then tomorrow I can decide that I don't want to talk about it. And that's my choice. Like, I don't have to feel the same way about it every single day. And also, for example, I gave my family permission to tell other family members or friends so that I didn't have to. However, if someone, for anyone listening, if anyone ever tells you that they just had a miscarriage or anything that they're grieving, you should not tell anyone unless they explicitly gave you permission to, because it is not your story and it is not your news. And maybe they just wanted to tell one person, and maybe you're that person, and there's no reason for you to talk about it with anyone else. And that was always something don't spread other people's bad news.
Exactly. I feel you so much on that, because I feel like I did it kind of the way you did it. I would tell a couple of people and then be like, please let everyone know, because I don't want to have to keep sharing the news. But that is me setting that expectation and that lack of boundary. And it is hard. boundaries become such a big thing when you're grieving or you're struggling in motherhood in general, right? Like boundaries become really a crux of your own mental health and emotional safety and that of your family and your children. And when you're in those spaces, it can be really hard to set them. And so I think it's very helpful for support people to assume them wherever they can. Unless you are asked to do something specific, assume the boundary in terms of things like not sharing, but
Yeah.
also in terms of things like I will always tell people I remember telling a friend once I just dropped dinner off on your porch. And I had told her I was bringing dinner that night, but I didn't tell her when I was there because I didn't feel like I didn't want her to feel like she needed to see me. And she actually said, "Oh, I wish you'd told me. I would have loved to have seen you." And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting," because I felt the opposite.
Yeah, so see, that's actually really interesting because, like, I've done that for friends before, and I will say to them, by the way, I'm not trying not to see you, but I assumed that you don't want to socialize right now. And
Yes.
the majority will say, thank you, I didn't want to socialize right now. And it's just,
I
and
think
I
that
think
is the most
dropping
common.
things off, yeah. But you give them the option and you say, like, I can come hang out with you if you want, but I don't want you to feel pressured because this is your thing. And so when you're talking about that, though, so like, I have created this program for moms who have gone through infertility or are currently going through infertility.
God, we need
And
that.
thank you. I'm just so passionate about it because I feel like it's something that I wish I had. And it's for people who are either done building their families or for people who have one or multiple kids but still want more kids. Because being a parent and going through infertility is just so difficult. And a lot of times there's this misconception that once you have a child that infertility does not exist anymore, and that is just not true. Like there's just so many reasons. And so the first step in my program is actually focusing on moving beyond trauma and identifying what they've gone through and talking about their specific experiences, because it's so you cannot move forward if you don't acknowledge what happened. And then also with that support aspect, I think that while we can tell people who are doing the supporting, like, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, I also think there's something to talking about to the people who have gone through it with, like, okay, let's talk about the people in your life and set expectations for what's realistic about what's going to happen.
Yes.
And then let's identify the triggers, and then let's identify how you're going to deal with those triggers, because they will come up. And if we have a game plan for how to deal with the triggers, it doesn't make it as overwhelming and blindsiding because it still happens.